I'm Beth Hollenberg, CEO of Everspring. Everspring is a technology-enabled strategy and services company. We partner with higher education, online, on-ground, and hybrid blended across a variety of functions, and basically finding the points of leverage where we can apply know-how and technology to help universities solve really big problems or capture really big opportunities.
Hi, I'm James. I'm Director of Online Learning for DePaul's College of Business. I teach AI classes. I'm part of our AI Institute, and I'm the master of impeccable timing occasionally. So back in 2022, I was thinking AI is going to change my university. So I put together this big presentation, spoke about character AI, GPTs, all that good stuff. Timed it for September. A month later, ChatGPT came out.
And you're going to get to hear a lot more about what James is doing on campus. So basically, how many people here have used AI to answer a question in the last 24 hours? So almost everybody. You're not even Generation Z. Gen Z, 93% of Gen Z now uses AI fluently. And what we're seeing is that more than half of prospective students who are looking for an academic program, be it college or at the graduate level, they're starting with an AI search. So we're seeing an inversion of a world where the university website used to be the starting point for an investigation. Now it's the ending point. It's a validation mechanism. And that's basically an inversion of what I'll call old school search, which for many universities is still, keywords are something that they're mastering. We at Everspring do a lot of marketing for universities as part of our services, and we, in our properties, so there are a lot of statistics that are growing out there, we've seen, however, in our own universities that we support, 4 times the amount of traffic now coming through AI sites to the primary websites that we manage.
So hands up if you guys remember Google launching. Do you remember the conversation? Like you told your friends, this thing hasn't been advertised, this thing is amazing. You just put in your query, it has the results, there's no craft, there's no advertising, it's amazing. That is how ChatGPT, Claude, and their competitors are for our prospects and our students. We have about 6,000 universities and colleges here in the US, and where they used to compete for organic, that no longer works because they're below the fold. If you go to a search page like Google today, you'll see organic, you need to scroll down for. So we're in this situation where we need to change because students, prospective students, are not using Google to search. They're using AI because it has this amazing environment that's clear of distraction. They don't need to leave the page. They can search for something. So when they come to our websites, that's basically validating their decision. They've made their mind up before they come to our website.
So part of what we did together here, and then I'm going to let you talk about my favorite concept here, which is the AI sommelier. We partnered, Everspring partnered with DePaul to support a master's in accountancy to basically do the marketing for that program. And then we ended up doing a substantial amount of that within the AI environment. And so one of the reasons that content and AI are best friends, the same way that AI and data are best friends, is it's hard to trick AI. AI may hallucinate, but the match between your content and how it's delivered is really important. So I'm going to hand it to you for this concept that we now love in our office. Everybody's talking about the AI sommelier, which came from you.
Okay, so I deal with analogies. My family is a family of artists. I'm the one technical guy. So my job is basically explaining technology to my family. So I came up with this concept of a sommelier. When you go to a restaurant, wine is this sort of weird, opaque thing. There's a bottle that has a label on it, and you have no idea what's inside. A sommelier is able to come up to you, and they can do 3 important things. The first one is provenance. They can explain where this thing came from. What varieties of grapes are in there? Was it a good year or a bad year? They can explain provenance. That's important. The next part is pairing. They're able to demonstrate that this thing is going to transform your evening because this particular wine goes so well with what you've chosen to eat that evening. And then the last part is price. They work out, what is the best price for you. They're not going to give you something that you don't want to pay for. They're going to recommend something that's within your appropriate budget, and it's going to work for you. So those are the 3 things that when I talk to my students, I'm saying that's what you need to be for AI. You need to understand there's over 200 foundation models at the moment. There's about 1.5 million open source models that you can download from Hugging Face. There's about 10 frontier foundation models. So I want my students to be sommeliers for AI. They understand what is the right AI to use. It's not a commodity. They've got to understand how it's going to pair to be the right thing for the right tool, and what's the appropriate price to pay for that.
So what we were going to do here is walk you through basically what it was that we did with DePaul and for DePaul to kind of illustrate how the construct works as you start moving your marketing, which may be largely keyword driven, into an AI framework. And so there are sort of 5 basic steps, and you're going to watch these group as we walk through, and then we'll give some examples of actually what happens now when you key in some searches into some AI engines. 5 sort of basic steps, and they fall into a couple of categories. One is differentiation, and you'll see us walk through these. What makes a university or a program, in this case the Masters of Accountancy at DePaul, what truly makes it different? And then really getting down to what is it that you want the environment, the search environment, to prioritize? How are you going to construct content to live within that container? And then the technical aspect of AI. So the startling thing as we sort of evolved into the AI world is how much AI still depends on basic communication, natural language, sort of the revenge of the linguistics major. If you don't understand content, you don't understand messaging, all the technical stuff in the world is not going to get the marketing site recognized. So we'll walk through these one at a time with a few DePaul examples. So the first is to develop a value proposition that's essentially differentiating, that's going to give the program a market edge. For DePaul, what we did is we ingested a lot of information of what was already out there. We spent a lot of time talking both to you and your colleagues, looking at not only what the brand of the university was, but the brand of the business school and the brand of the program. Who were the students? Where did they come from? So segmentation. And what popped out at us was that this program had a very, very strong career focus, even as compared to other Masters of Accountancy. They're not all vanilla. This really came out as being strongly anchored in professional skills and discipline. So we started to build around that core value proposition of the career-focused Masters in Accountancy. Step number 2 then ends up being, well, what content do you want to give basically the search environment, in this case, the broader sphere that trains the AI cortex? What do you want to put out there? And so for us, it was a matter of identifying the concepts and the content that were going to be substantive, but also authentic. You really cannot trick an AI engine. So again, we went back to the content at the university, both looking at what were the core competencies of the faculty, the way they were teaching the courses, what was in the program, and then also indexing those against what were the skills that were being searched for. So that overlap between what DePaul really was good at and what was making DePaul different, and what students or prospects were searching for and what would be applicable for them in a career-focused program, that's where we got our content. Then you start laddering it up in a structure that goes from the big topics, the containers, the broad messaging, down into very specific and detailed blogging, but also using a natural voice. So the great thing about AI is that it understands the way that you would explain something to somebody that you were sitting at dinner with. My favorite Mark Twain quote, "I would have written you a shorter letter, I didn't have the time." So plain speak is sometimes harder to get to than complicated speak. AI loves plain speak. The third thing, and it'll be really interesting to get your take leading AI initiatives on data structure, is the structure of the data. So here's where the technical part comes in. When you're living in a dual world of coding for keywords, which is HTML and Google, but you're also living in AI and the back-end structure that has to be coded for that, your websites need to speak AI and they need to speak keyword search. Those are not the same languages technically. So data structure and architecture becomes really important. Maybe you can sommelier us into explaining what the heck all of that means.
Okay, so the good news here is this is very easy to do. The bad news is most people don't do this. So HTML, the language of the web, is a very forgiving language. And the issue there is if you don't know what you're doing, it's very easy to create web content. but that web content needs to have semantic structure behind the scenes. So this is something you may see if your site is ADA compliant or Section 508. Those are ways in which you've got tags behind the scenes that explain the structure of information on the site. This is a way that perhaps a blind person could navigate your website because that structural information is there. The other component of that a lot of people miss is a thing called schema. So schema is a way that you can very objectively identify what elements are on the page. And this is typically very good for the content that surfaces in voice search. So if someone's using Alexa and a site is using schema, it's more likely to rank highly for that. But that last part, the structured code, the schema, that's how AI learns. They go through machine learning processes like semi-supervised learning or unsupervised learning. And when there's tagged content, content that has structure, that's where the machine learning processes work effectively. And that's how the AI models know what your website does. So when that information surfaces to a prospect, it's going to be correct.
So we're going to talk about results when you actually put it together and it works. And this is some data that we saw on the sites that we were managing for DePaul. The lines that are going up and to the right, that's web traffic. So we saw a more than 3 times, so 350% growth and increase in the traffic to the program pages as we AI enabled both the back end and changed the content and built on it. We also saw a month-over-month increase in impressions. That's what you would see when you've asked the AI a question, so it's serving up an impression to you. We saw a month-over-month increase of 22%. And these are trends that continue. You have to constantly feed it new content, but it was really remarkable. In a world that's getting flooded with SEO-driven search, AIO is now coming in and changing the game yet again. So paid search, no program can afford to pay their way to visibility. And then you look at how you use SEO, that's organic search, that ends up being a much more powerful search tool. Well, AI is coming in like the F1 around the racetrack on this because it's 0 click. So you ask AI a question in natural language and you're gonna actually see the answer. There's no further searching. You can if you want, but it's right there and consumable. And so you start looking at when you get it right, the traffic increase and the impression increase, and then the ability to use data from those searches to feed back in and constantly improve and tailor which content you're wanting to put out for various different segments. So it adds a dimensionality to the actual search experience for the prospect, and a dimensionality for those of us who love data, to the marketing, which is very much a data science, that is fundamentally unparalleled when you start looking at keyword search. So what we thought that we would do is give you a few examples of what happens when you actually key this in, because one of the most interesting and frightening things about AI at the moment, actually it may not be the most frightening, is the AI has personality. So I don't know if any of you have gone to Perplexity and then gone and asked Google and then gone over to Claude and just ask it the exact same question. Those are like 3 different human beings. They are not going to give you the same answer. They each have their own flavor. So mastering marketing, where we're looking at multiple different AI agents, is yet again a fundamentally different task. And so what we've managed to do together for the Masters of Accountancy is actually get it top ranked in the top 1, 2, or 3 across those search engines. So these are basically similar, the same prompts. The first one was with Claude. The second is the AI overview that you see in Google. And we've got the boxes highlighted around when Google is giving the AI summary. This one has mention of DePaul both in the AI summary and in the detail that goes below it. This can't be bought, and it can only be earned through content and the right structure. And then the third one was a ChatGPT, which also gave similar results. So across Claude, across Google, across ChatGPT, when the rest of the marketing content, messaging, and structure, as well as the back-end technical aspects are right, you start getting these remarkably consistent results and prominence in search across very different engines. So we had a lot of people in our offices that were like, really? And it's still coming up. It was a little like a magic trick. So this was fantastic and great to cooperate. Where we wanted to end, though, is to hand over to you, because this is the tip of the spear. It was our partnership with you, but DePaul is doing a whole other set of things related to AI and how you can apply AI into education. So figured we would end with that.
So this has been the fun part. What we're trying to do is to make sure that we move beyond sort of theory to practical experience. So for the past 2 years, we've basically got everyone in the university realizing that they need to have hands-on experience with AI. But the thing is, that experience has to be cross-functional. You don't want all the accountants playing around with the same tool. You want people from different disciplines, people from different levels within the university, and then a mixture of staff and faculty. So playing around with the tools in a way that's ethical and responsible. We're creating internal policies and then looking to see if those policies actually work once you start using the tools, with the idea that we can repeat that information and give that back to governance. So it's been a fun sort of 2 years sort of playing around with these tools. And the thing is, everything changes on a daily basis, which is sometimes scary to faculty. Faculty want to be able to demonstrate a tool that they know about intimately because they're the sage on the stage. So what we try to do is to show the fun stuff. I'll show an accountancy professor that she can create a theme tune for her class in AI in less than 2 minutes. And this transforms the experience for an accounting professor who's normally dealing with the fact that her students don't want to take her class. And now she's the cool professor who creates a cool theme song that's a K-pop rendition of the syllabus for that class. So like I say, fun stuff.
Tip of the spear. Now everybody wants to go to DePaul. We are just about at time. Happy to answer questions outside the room. I know, Kate, you're going to want to take back the stage here. But do feel free to find either one of us. You can get to us here. And I think the big message that goes through all of this is that AI is a tool to be played with, experimented with, and learned, and to make a plan, and that it's possible to have a lot of change, even despite a mystery that is the sort of magic of AI. So thank you very much, and we look forward to talking to you.